is up, you guys? This is Mini Superheroes Today.
Alright, well, we are here to talk LEGO Speed Champions, and this is going to be a blast. Would you introduce yourself, and we'll jump right in?
Sure. So, my name is Christopher Stamp. I am the creative lead, or design lead, on LEGO Speed Champions. I've worked at LEGO for almost 12 years on many projects, from LEGO Movie, and Ninjago Movie, Speed Champions, Galaxy Squad, like many different things. Launched LEGO Art a few years ago, so done a couple of products in my time. So yeah.
Amazing. Well, I'm a Speed Champions fan. I'm a car guy, I'm a LEGO guy, and this brings it all together. So I'm really excited about this. And I've really loved past waves of Speed Champions. They're always really well curated, where, you know, they tend to throw in a classic, or even just a newer classic, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But almost every wave has at least one classic in it.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then we've got top-of-the-line stuff that's modern, you know, of course, at the time the wave comes out. But I'd love to know, how do you decide what cars are going to be in each wave? Because there's so many to pick from, and somehow every wave is always good. So how do you pick each wave?
There's many different things that we take into consideration, and many different reasons, I should say. So sometimes a partner will approach us. We're very fortunate at LEGO that we are a fairly large company, well known, that large automotive partners like Ferrari or Lamborghini, they will approach us with opportunities. But also, if we flip it, we already kind of have an idea of what we want. I've definitely got my wish list mapped out for the next 2, 3, 4 years.
We're going to come back to that.
So, yeah. So there's certain brands in there that, because we're so fortunate, I can approach and they will actually like hear us out, give us the time of day, just to hear what we have to discuss. So we're in a very good position that way. When it comes to actually picking the final thing, we really approach all of these as partnerships. So it's not us saying, I want this car, give it to us, Lamborghini. It's more about, okay, would you guys want to work with us? Yes. Okay, what cars have you got that's coming, that's new, or that you're really excited about, or anniversaries with icons that you want to talk about? How do we also on Speed Champions team do something different to last year? So the starting point for anything Speed Champions, if we look at a blank canvas for 23, how can we be different from last year? How can we improve on last year? What new partners do we want? Which old partners do we want to revisit? So for this year, we haven't done an 8-wide Porsche. Last Porsche we did was with the 6-wide collection, which we've cancelled now. We don't want to just do another Porsche 911 because we've done several of those in the 6-wide. So with this product, it is the 100-year anniversary of Le Mans. It's 75-year anniversary of Porsche, as you can see with the little 75 on the side. That nobody really knows why I've picked 75. It's because of the anniversary. First time doing Porsche in the 8-wide as well. First time doing Le Mans, LMP, LMH in the 8-wide. So there's a lot of firsts there. So that straight away for us ticks a lot of boxes. We didn't have a Porsche last year. So what you'll notice is I don't like doing one brand one year and then just doing the same brand the next year. It has to be a really special car for us to do that. So it's nice because then if you go to the shop, you're not going to see a lot of Porsches. You're just going to see one Porsche, one McLaren, one Lamborghini, one this. So that's one point. Brand new IPs. So what IPs have we not got that we would like that's on our bucket list? Top of the list, Pagani. We've done Koenigsegg, we've done Lotus. This year it's Pagani. Before that we did Lamborghini and Toyota, and different things that we're introducing. So Pagani made perfect sense because when we talked to Pagani, they've done many cars, but realistically they've done 3. They've done the Zonda and the Hyura, and now they've done the Utopia. The other versions are basically tweaks or updates on those versions. So they might have updated the body kit or the engine and things, but this is a brand new vehicle for them from the ground up. So since they only do one of those maybe every 10 years, that also seems like a huge deal. So in the car community, that's a huge talking point. Bang, all those dots line up. We've got to do this. Maybe it's things like we've never had an orange vehicle in the AY collection. So we've never done an icon with McLaren, so let's do an icon. We've never done a double pack with McLaren, so let's do a double pack. Wow. We want to tell a story. It's 60 years of McLaren, so let's maybe touch upon their history a little bit. That's their first ever supercar. This is their latest super hypercar. Yeah, that's kind of, it's a lot of newness. There's a lot of stories we can tell there. Although, if we strip it back to the bare bones, it's still an 8 wide, or in this case a 9 wide car in Lego. So that's a lot of the reasoning behind the choices. But there's many more examples. If we start looking, we could do that for car by car. But yeah, that's just a few examples of how we choose the vehicles.
So my next question goes just a little bit deeper than that.
Mm-hmm.
Some cars, like a Ferrari, make sense, pretty much always going to be red. But when you go with classic cars, sometimes there's more than one iconic color.
Absolutely.
So you're the lead, you're the guy in charge. How do you decide what color you want to go with? Is that a partner decision that the automobile maker says, okay, we'll only do it if it's in gray, or whatever the case may be? How do you decide on the color scheme? Because, unlike Hot Wheels, where they can use the same mold and make it in 50 different color schemes,
Absolutely.
with Lego, really, you only got about one unless you're an expert mock maker. So tell us about the color decisions.
That's a really good question, and that is actually something we do talk about.
I told you I'm a Speed Champions freak.
No, I really like it, and what you'll notice if you've paid enough attention is that it's more the icons that we do, maybe some more unique colours. So, first of all, to answer your question, it's always a collaboration. We never do anything and just tell the partners this is how it is, and the partners never do anything and say you're doing this or nothing else. We create really good relationships. We don't want to go into those kind of relationships where one is in charge of the other, because then it's not a relationship, it's not a partnership. We go into this really 50-50 as partners. The icons you'll see, for something like this, first of all, the most iconic colour it's in is orange. But then the reason you would pick it is because you have to do it in orange, because that's iconic, and we've never done another orange 8 wide car. So that's great. If you're doing, when we did the Dodge Challenger, doing purple, if you were to say, just with a blank canvas, what if Speed Champions did a purple car? Sounds a bit weird. But as soon as you say, what if they did a purple Challenger, everyone's like, oh yeah, because it was iconic in that colour. You could also do orange or yellow or lime green, but we've done other cars in those colours. So we've done orange here, we've done a yellow Toyota, we've done lime green, the Urus. But we've never done a purple car. So this actually allows us to add novelty and do a car that we've never done in that colour. Same with, if you look at the dark red Chevy Corvette we did.
That's what
we've never done a dark
question.
Red. Is it?
Yeah.
So the reason we do that is because, and also you'll notice with those cars, especially the icons, we tend to use more transparent stickers, so that we do it in orange, but if you like it in blue or red or whatever, the stickers will also be transferable.
I never thought about that.
We started that with our Porsche 911 in white that we did for the 6 wide. So that was our first test run, got really good feedback, so we said, okay, there's something in this. But the reason that we did that as well, especially the Chevy in dark red or the purple or the orange, is because we know that we want to appeal to as many people as possible. Yes, people buy these because they're in love with it being a McLaren F1. Yes, we're using stickers maybe in transparent because maybe they want to rebuild it into a different colour. However, some people are buying it just because we know there's a huge AFOL community and it's an orange car, and they want wheel arches in orange because we've never done that before, and they want to make a orange robot or spaceship, and that wheel arch will be great for a booster or something. So we also want to recommend and encourage rebuildability and creativity and imagination, because that's Lego through and through, that's our core. So if we can do a car in dark red, and there's a guy who, it appeals to somebody who's a big Chevy guy, appeals to somebody who's just a big Stingray guy, but then it also appeals to the guy who maybe he's not cool about into cars so much, but he really wants to make a dark red robot. Then finally he gets the pieces that he's been begging Lego to make in dark red that he never gets anywhere else. So we really try to truly listen to what the consumers actually want, and even if they're not a car guy, how can I also capture their attention if they're just a Lego guy? So does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. I think to the credit of Speed Champions, so a theme like Star Wars kind of sells itself, right? We don't have to go into that.
Yeah.
But, if a piece like the orange, wheel cover, like you said, or something like that appeared in Star Wars, that's cool. But it's going to sell itself anyway, so maybe Star Wars doesn't feel the need to push the boundary as much as you do, whereas you check multiple boxes by including one piece. You appease car fans, you appease regular Speed Champions fans, and people who may never have picked up this set otherwise. So, to your credit, I think that's actually really cool that you're thinking multifaceted with the inclusion of one piece, let alone several, because there's a couple here that are like spray painted.
Yeah,
exactly. It doesn't technically exist yet, but to your credit, I think that's amazing.
I think we need to look at it realistically, because it'd be easy for me to say, we do it better than Star Wars. Because that'd be a great label to say, because they're like, Star Wars is a giant. Star Wars would do exactly the same if they were doing 8 X-Wings. Because they would do the same. But because they're doing 1, they do an icon. Just like if we were doing 5 Ferraris or just doing 1 car, we would be in the same boat. We're fortunate because we're doing 7 cars, or in this case 6, that we need to find the variety, because we don't want you to buy the same thing 7 times or 6 times. So we're fortunate that, how do we differentiate this car and the other one? Well, we can use colours to our advantage. So I think it's more about figuring out what the constraints are, because I think Star Wars would definitely do the same if they were doing 5 X-Wings or TIE fighters. But because they're only doing 1, they pick the icon. They wouldn't do an orange TIE fighter, for example. So it's also looking at it from their perspective as well.
So we've got this amazing Too Fast, Too Furious vehicle here. Really awesome. And before that, we got Dom Toretto's Charger, as well as the James Bond 007 Aston Martin. I will say that, and I've said this to my followers for a couple years now, that I think Speed Champions is one of the best value sets for what you get. The price points generally are lower when compared to other licensed sets for the quality you get, unique pieces. You see where I'm going with this. So when we got James Bond and Dom Toretto, I was blown away that those sets were as cheap as they are, and you get a licensed minifigure and an iconic vehicle. Obviously, we're diving back in with one more here. Can fans be hopeful that that trend will continue, where each wave may have 1 or 2 more licensed vehicles from a movie or show that they love? Is that something we can be optimistic for?
I think my answer would just never say never. I think what we've done is we've opened the door. So now we've opened the door, it just means that we've just shown that Speed Champions can include different types of vehicles. Maybe we don't do any more movie things. Maybe it's an anime thing. Maybe it's a cartoon. Could be Pixar, could be an anime, could be anything. Could be a Batmobile. But then the question is, why would you do a Batmobile when we've got a whole product line based on superheroes? Surely they own Batmobiles, so for me it would make more sense that they actually do take Batmobiles. So with our focus is just on what is the best vehicles. And also our focus has been, especially with the movie and TV vehicles, is showing that a lot of people are saying you just do supercars, even though since day 1 we've done more than just that. We've done F1, GT, rally, concept, video game. We've done so many other cars. Movie just happens to be one genre of that. So I would say never. I would say that there's no pattern, so I wouldn't, like last year you got 2, this year you're getting 1, next year you might get none.
So far.
Exactly, yeah. So my answer is never say never. Now we've opened the door, more could come through.
Is the best way for fans to vote with their wallets if, these sets see an enormous amount of sales? Does that come back to you on a design level to say, hey, we should seek out more partnerships like this?
I don't think so, because as you can see from 23, so today we've shown you 23, it's already designed and finished. 22 just came out. So the movie vehicles have already been finished designs before we ever launched James Bond and Fast and Furious. So when these come out and these do well or don't do so well, or there's a clear winner and there's maybe one that's not so strong, we'll have already designed 24.
I see.
Or at least we'll have already started designing the final products. So it doesn't really work like that. I think the way that we do it is we already have a kind of idea, but it's through the partnerships with the consumers that we can figure stuff out. We definitely listen to consumers when they're saying, don't do this, we don't like this. But it's never really been about car choice, it's always been about graphics or number of stickers or the proportions.
Sure.
But it's not really been about vehicle choice, because if it was just a vehicle choice, we would do Group B rally car every year, because if you look in all the feedback sections online, everybody's like, do more Group B rally. We want to, but it's more about finding the right time and the right vehicle, and can we also do the vehicle justice, and there's many factors to consider. So I could easily say, I'm just going to do nothing but great Group B rally cars. And I would probably personally be really happy because the silhouettes are so unique and different, and it was probably the most craziest automotive sport we've ever had. But there's just so many other conversations with IP partners and the assortment and different things we need to take into consideration. So I would say this has opened the door. So it's just expanding on what we can do. So yeah.
So obviously we can't confirm anything because, you know, we can't be fishing for too much. But again, the door is open. Is there a dream partnership that you would love to work with to do a licensed IP car?
It's hard to say. I have my dream movie and TV vehicles. I also have my dream automotive vehicles. I think there's
Can you give us one, or is that...
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean we're going to do it. It's just my personal thing.
Of course.
So, like, I think people's asked me this question before, and I think things like everybody wants Back to the Future.
Yes, that's where I was hoping you'd go.
Well, actually, I think if you want to, like, I would say never, because I'm a huge fan of those franchises. But I'm thinking things like, if you gave me unlimited options, Blade Runner, or the car from Tron, or Jurassic Park, or like there's so much. I'm such a movie nerd. There's so many I would like the Pizza Van from Pizza Planet and things like I really go broad.
Yeah.
I mean, even things like the Munsters Mobile and stuff. Like I'm really, if there was one, but then again I change my opinion every couple of days. It's a very niche thing you might not have heard, but in the UK, Thunderbirds, I would do Fab 1.
Yeah.
I take it you like that idea.
That would be awesome.
And I know it's... How else do you get a pink car in Speed Champions?
Yeah.
You do Fab 1. So it's... but that's probably because I'm British and I grew up with it, so it's a selfish opinion.
My thought is that you can maybe you can dip your toe in the water with wink and nod stuff.
Yeah.
So my all-time favorite car, my dream car, I'm going to own it by 2030. I'm working for it. I want a 51 Hudson Hornet. I think it's the coolest car of all time. First official NASCAR body. All the records it held in the early 50s.
That's interesting.
It is interesting. And my ears perked up when you talked about the new 8-wide design, that it's going to sit lower, if I may.
Yeah, of course.
It's going to sit lower now, which is exactly why the Hudson Hornet exceeded 51, because the aerodynamics, it sat lower so it can turn better. So it would never...
It follows the principles of go-karting.
Exactly. It never won off the gunshot,
No.
but it always took the lead around the corners because nothing could pass it.
Exactly. But
when I heard about the drop-down chassis, that's the first thing I thought. And, of course, a stock Hudson from Pixar cars.
Yeah, of course.
But you could kind of skirt around a Pixar thing because you could just do a 51 racing fabulous Hudson Hornet.
I think that generation of cars, that's why a few years ago, not that specific car, but that's one of the reasons why I wanted a few years ago to start introducing icons, one every year. So you said like the Countach and the F1 here, and even back to when we did the F40. A lot of the modern day cars, so you'll hear me talking a lot about the teardrop and all these kind of things, they're so aerodynamically correct that a lot of the shaping kind of becomes similar. But if we're talking about different silhouettes, when you go back in time, you start getting such wacky and wonderful silhouettes and different ones where they've got extra wheels on the side and extra backs, and then F1 cars that look like cigars and all these different things that they're so vastly different.
Are you familiar with the Phantom?
Exactly. Yes,
that'd be
exactly.
great.
That's why I think that Speed Champions, by starting to include icons, by starting to include movie and TV vehicles, by starting to do LMP cars rather than just F1 cars, they're all vehicles, and I think that's what we want to do. Is we want to show that this collection has huge potential, and it doesn't always have to be just supercars or GT cars every year. So I think exactly what you're doing now is exactly what we do in the office with our 3 model builds, our 6-man design team, is we get so We become little kids.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Speed Champions appeals. I say there's no age limit on Speed Champions because I want it to appeal to the inner child of everybody. There's no age limit on being a petrol head. Like, my dad liked cars, my granddad liked cars, my son likes cars. So it's generational, but it's also ageless. So
my next question's for you. I'm going to ask them both at the same time, just in the favor of time, because I think you can answer both in the same swing.
Okay.
So, again, we've done licensed, we've done classics, we've done modern. Is there any potential for something like NASCAR or Monster Jam? We've never seen Lego NASCAR in any capacity, but we have seen Lego Monster Jam through Technic, which I think is cool. I'm a big, well, I shouldn't say I'm a big Monster Jam fan, because I'm sure there's somebody who's watching this that's way bigger than me, but I grew up really liking Monster Jam, and I have a lot of appreciation for it.
Yeah, of course.
And I don't know, I just love this theme so much that I feel like Monster Jam would make you almost have to design a new chassis. Maybe, I don't know.
You would. I've already looked into Monster Jam.
Okay.
So before Technic ever did Monster Jam, I did look into it because it's such a fantastic topic, very different for Speed Champions as well. Realistically though, that would be very expensive because Technic can give you a Monster Jam that's got a built-in pullback motor and everything for $20, I think it is.
Yeah, it's like dirt cheap.
It's
for
really good,
minute,
and they look
really
fantastic.
Yeah.
For the same thing as Speed Champions, because we'd want it in scale, so it would be huge, you'd be doubling, maybe tripling the price.
Yeah.
So
it maybe doesn't fit with the Speed Champions
for Speed
catalog
Champions, I
as
don't
well.
think it fits. Plus, also when it comes to those, Speed Champions became more of a display piece. Where if you're thinking Monster Jam, my takeaway would be that they're very, you want to smash them into things. That's the whole point of monster trucks. So I don't know how much people would want to display them. But as always in Speed Champions, I'll say never say never, because I have asked that question myself before many times. But I think it's also about, if you're a fan of Monster Jam, or if you're a fan of any automotive partner, Lego isn't just Speed Champions. And there's many times we talk with IP partners, automotive partners, where we say, that's a great choice, but that's probably best is probably Creator Expert with their vehicles, or that perfect for Technic. So Monster Jam's a good example where we were looking at Monster Jam, we said, it just makes more sense with Technic. And there's times where they do things as well, Technic, where they say, makes more sense with Speed Champions. So we should never forget, and that's the way we approach it. I'm constantly having conversations with the Technic team and the Creator Expert team where we're not just this company, we're part of a bigger thing. So as long as we in Lego can give you that, we do take that into consideration. So.
Well, I think the reason I'm such a proponent for you, the Speed Champions, doing it is at minifigure scale.
Oh yeah,
these vehicles are unparalleled. I mean, no hate to the city, no hate to the creator. It just is what it is. The attention to detail, the love of the car. I mean, you look at this, right? It's like just a Hank Pym's shrink ray just thrown at this. It's perfect. It's such a loving representation of what it's supposed to be, and I just don't get that from the Gravedigger Technic set. As much as I love it, I was so excited to get that set, but I don't feel that same level of maybe authenticity like the Legoized version of it. It just feels like the Technicized version. So I guess as a minifigure scale fan, I'll always be rooting for you to go that route.
I think for me, I'm always a fan of putting things in minifig scale. Same as if you look at Star Wars, the big Millennium Falcon, that's the really big one. Yeah. I love the fact it's minifig scale.
Yeah.
There's something about it that I think it just increases the appeal, because all of a sudden, if you've got little characters in the world becomes more real. So I can understand where you come from. I think for me personally, I would say I would love if minifigures could fit in like the Technic product, but we don't do that. We don't cross cannibalize.
You got to mock it if you want to see it happen.
I would also say, if we were to put the level of details from Speed Champions onto a Technic Monster Jam, as soon as you drive it into each other, it's just gonna fly. They're just gonna fly up anyway. So then you're just gonna get frustration. So I would say, personally, I love what they've done, but I think we always wanting to know what can we do better. And I know the Technic team personally, they're the same. So.
Well, then my other question, we kind of jumped right into Monster Jam because I feel like we're going to do it. NASCAR. Has NASCAR ever been something you've considered?
Yes, we looked into NASCAR for 2019. and then for the Dodge SKU, because Dodge was not for the Dodge SKU, sorry, for the Chevrolet SKU, and we were in talks with Chevrolet for it and NASCAR, and then in the end it just made more sense to do Chevrolet. Sure. So then what we ended up doing is we did a Chevrolet NASCAR without the NASCAR side, and in NASCAR every driver is connected to a number.
Right.
So that's why in the end we went for, I want to say it was 5. I think the real car was 8, and we were able to pick 5 because 5 was the only number in NASCAR that wasn't assigned to a specific driver.
Huh.
So that car has been designed around NASCAR basically.
Interesting. To get as close as you can without actually.
Well, the question is how do you do a Chevrolet car that's kind of connected to a certain type of racing, but you can't. There's so many challenges about doing that specific car. Sure. Because then you need to include that specific driver. We don't do skin tone minifigures unless it's an entertainment SKU, and there's so many other things that
plus
take
all
away
the
from just doing the
advertisements,
car.
right? Could you do Dale Earnhardt with an alcohol? You know,
that's a whole bigger topic. Yeah.
So maybe I can understand why that isn't a thing.
Absolutely, yeah.
Bigger fish to fry.
I would say never because NASCAR. We've been in talks with them before, and they are a really great company. It's I would they're on my bucket list. I would say never say no with them because in America it's like a national pastime kind of thing. It's the biggest, one of the biggest sports in the country. So I'm personally a fan. I think it didn't work out with the Chevy, but we ended up with a fantastic product, and Chevrolet is such a great partner by themselves that it was fine. But that's something we need to revisit at some point, so it's more a question of when rather than if, I guess.
Cool.
But yeah.
Man, I have to say we've done a handful of interviews today, and I'm leaving this one with the biggest smile and the most optimism because you didn't confirm anything, you didn't say anything's for sure happening, but I love your never say never approach, and
I think we have to. If we want a collection that appeals to everybody, we need to be open to anything. So also if we're serious about Speed Champions, takes really serious the building experience, because we don't want you to just rush through the build to get to the final end result. We want when you're building this that you're like, what am I doing right now? And then you put on something like, oh, now I get what I'm building. And we also want to surprise you by having, like with this one, minifigure guns as exhausts.
Yeah.
Like we want you to be like, wait,
and you can be like me and it'll fall off while you're...
No, exactly, right? But when you open your elements and you see a minifigure blaster, or a couple of them, with triggers, we want you guys to be like, when am I going to use that? So we want the build experience to be important. Now, part of that is also making them very unique and different. Maybe a monster truck is the exact way to do that. Or maybe it's NASCAR where we can actually build in the roll cage and everything, because you don't get to do that on a normal supercar. So I think increase variety by keeping the door open.
Absolutely.
Or with entertainment IPs or icons or LMPs, opening new doors. So.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for your time today. This has been one of my favorite interviews today. It's been such a pleasure, and please, please, please keep up the great work. This is such a joy with you to collect.
Well, you made it to the end of the video. Thanks for hanging out with me today, and don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and maybe check out one of my other videos listed here.